Hello. I wanted to take a quick second and show you guys this designer that I'm working on in Aurelia. It's kind of an evolution of a system that I've been building over multiple technologies, Windows, Forms, XAML, Angular, JS, and then finally Aurelia. And I found that by far Aurelia has been the easiest and the funnest implementation so far. Basically what this designer is, just as a forms designer, it provides you the ability to do two-way data binding as well as creating responsive applications. So let's get started. I'm just going to do a quick demo of like a customer registration screen with just a couple input fields and stuff like that. So I'm just going to drop out some column grid system, a form. We'll do a couple inputs and maybe a button, and then collapse that. And the nice thing about this is that this is all using custom elements in Aurelia. So over here, this property grid, this is all 100% metadata driven, but it's just a property grid control or custom element that allows me to have dynamic rendering based on whatever I click on the designer. So and I'll show you the differences in 1 second. I'm just going to call this customer form, customer registration. And now when I click here, you'll see that it's changed the different property grids. So I can have property grids per control or element that I drag onto the form. It's got two-way data binding, so if I wanted to, I can change the label here. I'm going to call this first name. You'll see that over here it updated. First name, and also it's responsive, so I could just for giggles set that to 6. Now if I click on here, I can do the same thing, but everything over the property grid. I'll say last name, and we'll set this guy to be responsive as well for 6. Not that that really would be a smart idea, but it's okay. And then for the button, we'll just say button, maybe submit. Here's an action which would be the click delegate that it would fire in the view model that you have. And then for the classes, we'll make this a success. You can see that everything's updating in real time. And then finally, because this is a designer, I store everything back on the server. So I have everything via web API. This all gets stored as JSON, and then I re-render it as HTML. So I'm just going to call this customer registration. This name here is important. It has to be unique for all the widgets or applications, if you will, that you design. And I'll show you that in a second, why this is important. Customer registration screen. Then I have a save button, a preview, generate. I'm going to first do preview, or actually I'm going to first do generate. And if you click over here on the preview JSON tab now, you'll actually see what gets rendered out, which is pretty nice because that way you can actually test, validate that, for example, we have 3 columns, that all 3 of those columns are right. And then you can also see how bad or how good does the HTML that it generates look like. And that actually looks fairly clean. Not a lot I'm doing yet. Have no bindings, but we'll show that later. Then I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So this actually stores it back in the server. So I'm going to hit save. Now that that has been saved, what happened is now in my database, I've stored a unique key of customer registration, so that if I do preview and I click preview here, and now when the page loads, you should see a preview of customer registration with my legend, my 2 inputs, with a 6-column width of XS, and then my submit button. So I hope this has made some sense. I'd love to get some feedback from you guys and hear what your thoughts are. I'll be doing several of these. The next couple big things would be the data binding, how I can do rich data binding by binding to any model, and I'll show you how that's done as well. Thanks a lot for listening, and love to get your feedback. Thank you again.